That said, too, I want to spend about 30 seconds just thanking the people that make this trip happen every year. You can give it up. There are, I think, 2 people down there that draw a paycheck while we're there. Everybody else either takes time off from work or volunteers their hours or something along that. It is an almost uncountable amount of volunteer man hours that go into this thing, and we are forever grateful for that fact. Now, before we dig in, we're going to play a little word association game. And you guys, I could tell you guys not to cheat, but you're all going to cheat anyway. So we might as well dig in. I want you to tell me what that is. No, that's not. Cute kitten, right? Oh, that kitty, so cute. Why don't you tell me what that is? Lollipop, candy. We would also accept cavity or late bedtime. Those were also acceptable answers. Now, this is my favorite one. Get ready for this one. Hold on to the edge of your chairs. What about this one? Uh-oh. There you go. That is who? That is Pastor Glenn Hall. We would have accepted many answers on this one. Most attractive worship pastor in Henry County. That's an acceptable answer. Awesome dude. I think I heard one of you say, that's my dog. We would also accept that as an answer. And we'll take a look at our last one. What is that? They cheated. I heard church over here. I heard building over here. And that's good because that means you guys were paying attention. Give yourselves a nice round of applause. In 2015, English language, that is a church. Right? That's what we say. I'm going to go to church. We say, hey, are you going to church? It's this place that we go, or this organization that carries Jesus' light into the world. That's what we mean when we say church. The problem with that is nowhere even once in the Bible does the word translated as church ever refer to that. It literally always means the called out ones. It always means people. It never means building. And you may be sitting in your chair right now thinking, that's really not that big a deal. That's a small misconception. We know what we mean. We know that we're actually the church. And I'm going to hopefully prove to you today that it is a really, really big deal that this misconception is allowed to survive. One of the ways in which it manifests itself happened on the way down to Daytona. I'm driving the little white bus, and I hear somebody behind me. I don't know who it was, but somebody behind me says, don't lie in this bus. This is a church bus. The understated logic being that the all-powerful, ever-present creator of the universe gets really upset when you lie in a vehicle that is registered to a religious organization. Please hold all your lies until we pull into a gas station to gas up, step out of the vehicle, and begin spreading falsehoods indiscriminately. Because at least there's a chance you can get away with it, or he'll be less angry with you. Right? You've heard that. You said, you can't say that. This is a church. We don't say bad words in church. Is the only place that God can hear things in church? Does he just not listen whenever? No, it's a very silly conception. One of my worst moments as a pastor came as a result of this misconception. We had moved into a house several years ago, and I think why it hurt me so bad is the first time this has happened. And I was pretty new on this job, and I was meeting my neighbor, and he's there, and he's smoking a cigarette, and we're out at the top of my driveway, we're talking, and inevitably, the conversation turns to what do you do for a living? And at this moment, I have a crisis of conscience, because I also volunteer as a teacher, so I have an out. I don't have to tell people that I'm a pastor. I can say I'm a teacher, and I am technically not lying, just not revealing all the truth, which I guess is okay as long as I do it here in this building. On my driveway, I'm allowed to lie because that's not church. So I bite the bullet. I'm like, am I really going to tell this guy I'm a teacher? And then a year later, he finds out I'm a pastor, and then I'm a lying pastor? No, we'll bite the bullet. We'll tell him what I do for a living. I'm a pastor, and this is what he does. He puts his cigarette behind his back. And I was part of me died inside that day because I'm like, what am I now? Am I like a walking conscience that convicts everybody of everything that they're doing wrong? Like, what has my life become that now I can't talk to this dude anymore because he thinks he can't smoke and talk to me at the same time? What happened in that span of 1 second? So we see that this misconception, it exalts places and people beyond what I promise you, if you ask my wife, she will tell you, I am not holy. You can say whatever you want in front of me, and I am no more holy than anybody that has ever walked the face of this earth. You do not need to clean up to have a conversation with me. But because this misconception exists, I dread the moment when people say, and what do you do for a living? Because we've set it apart. We've made it something that it was never intended to be, and I can prove it. I'm going to give you an example of how the word we use and say church is used in the New Testament, and this is used pervasively throughout the New Testament in this way. This is Luke writing in Acts. He says, Acts chapter 8, it says, but Saul was going everywhere to destroy the church. Now, right now, we think he's got like fire and hammers, right? Because he's going to destroy the church. But what he does is he goes from house to house, dragging out both men and women to throw them into prison. That's a very interesting way that he went about destroying the church. You can see there how the church equates to the men and women, and the houses are almost insignificant. That's just the place where the church happened to be at that moment. He went about destroying the church by taking the people that are the church, the called out ones, and putting them in a building where they could no longer effectively minister to the world about the risen Savior. And I had someone come up to me in between the service and say this, and I thought it was brilliant. He said, isn't it interesting the way that he tried to destroy the church was to lock it up in a building? And I said, boom. Mind blown. That's how dangerous this misconception is. We cannot reduce the people of God to a place. Buildings can crumble, people still carry a message. And we have to ask ourselves, if it's obviously unbiblical, if it's obviously not the translation that the authors that define the church use, why do we willingly accept it? Because we willingly accept it. This is not something we were tricked into, or this is not something that we had to like do a lot of mental gymnastics to get around. This is just the way that it is. This is acceptable. Why is it so acceptable? And I submit it's because the people of God have become very cowardly. We have become very scared. We have become very fearful. And when we hold to this misconceptions, we get to say sentences like this, and they make sense. The hungry don't need my food. They need the church's food. The depressed don't need my arms and my shoulder and my time. They need a Christian counselor at a church. Those who have misunderstood Jesus or don't know Jesus, they don't need me to talk to them about it. They need to show up at a specific place between the hours of 9:30 and 12:30 and get them some Jesus. We can say things like that the early writers would have not even had a category for and have them make sense. This misconception excuses our inaction, and so we love it. Because we want to be able to cry, just morally cry out. The church has done such a bad job of loving people. The world would be so much better if the church would just do its job and not be talking about us. We're talking about some faceless brick, which doesn't even make sense. The last time you were wounded, you didn't go lay your hand on the brick and ask it for anything. You called your friend and you said, hey, here's what I'm going through. The last time you sent in a prayer request or something like that, you did not address it to a building. You did not put 123 Wallaby Lane on it. You picked up a phone number and you called someone live so that you could talk, because the building would never do what we were designed to do. And I believe that in doing so, in moving our responsibility, in saying, hey, this is our responsibility, let's get that as far away from us as I can, we have also given up our identity. Because the church is the called out ones, and the called out ones are a very special people. We are a very, very special, gifted people. Where we once had no hope, we are now full and alive with hope. Where we were once dead, we are now alive. Where we once had to flee cowardly, we now have the God that holds back the waters, who's described as a courageous lion. We have a God that is to be feared, flows through us. We can love passionately, more passionately than any people ever, because we've known the most passionate love ever. We are literally a people that has changed the borders of nations and written history. We have affected the course of history. And so it is tragic when in an effort to get rid of our responsibility, we also shun our identity as the people of God, because we are a powerful people, not because we ourselves are powerful, but we are a powerful people because we are indwelt by a powerful God. And we give that up. When we push our responsibility, we give that up. And I said we do it because we're scared. That is a really big job. That is a really big, hard job. And we can't do it. And we know we can't do it. So we get rid of it. And we make a better plan. A plan that makes a lot of sense when you don't stop to think about it. We're going to build really attractive buildings. Nothing wrong with that. Architecture is beautiful. And we're going to make people want to come into these buildings. And we're going to get some really smart men and women, and those really smart men and women are going to be really charismatic speakers and be really funny, and we'll choose really cool guys and girls, and these 3% or 1% of our number, they will take the message, and we're going to get great musicians, and they're going to come up here, and we're going to take the top 1% of Christianity, and that top 1% is going to take our message out. And it makes a lot of sense because that's how we pick everything else. When you're picking a basketball team, you don't start with the guy that's 4'8" that can't put one foot in front of the other without falling down, right? When you're picking a band, you don't pick somebody who's never played an instrument before. You pick the fastest, the strongest, the most talented, the best, the most practiced, the most seasons. You put your best foot forward just like you would in any job interview. You put your best foot forward. You be the best version of yourself. And so we kind of say, we are going to take the best version of ourselves, and this will be the strategy that carries Christ into the new age. Because that's way more palatable than the actual plan. The actual plan is borderline insane. The actual plan is crazy. The actual plan involves omnipotent, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving Jesus to leave perfection and come here. And not come down here walking and talking, come down here as a baby, born to an unwed mother in the middle of nowhere. Not 2015, where you have the internet and can send a message like that. Not even Rome, where at least you would have had roads and messengers. Backwater, first century Palestine to an unwed couple. That's the beginning of the plan. This is a bad plan. Any of you that run companies, one of your employees comes, sits down, says, hey, I've got a plan, says something like that, you don't fire him that instant because then it's all legal issues, but you find a way to fire that guy soon. Because that's a bad plan, and it gets worse from there. So he grows, he gets intelligent, he keeps going, he does a few miracles, then it's time to pick his team, right? It's time to pick the team that will carry this message into eternity. This is his team. Now, the way most rabbis pick their team is they sat back and they let the best of the best come to them, right? There's 3 stages of Hebrew school. You pass the first one, you go to the second, pass the second one, go to the third, pass the third. You got an opportunity to try out to be a rabbi. And what that meant is you'd gone through all 3 phases, and now you go sit down with the rabbi and he grills you. And the best students would obviously go to the most prestigious rabbis because that's where the best students go. And I want to get on with this guy because he carries the most weight in the council. And then when he goes away, I step into his shoes and so the best of the best went to the best of the best, and everybody else kind of fell into the hierarchy afterwards. Jesus is one of only 2 rabbis in recorded history that went out and selected his disciples. Now, what happened when you were either thrown out or failed out of Hebrew school is you went and you did whatever your father did. So if your father was a fisherman, the second you got chucked out of school or didn't pass, you went and you were a fisherman. Carpenter, laborer, so on and so on. So when Jesus went and he says, hey, you fishermen, you come with me. Hey, you tax collector, you come with me. What he's essentially saying is, hey, you drop out. You're mine. You're on my team. You who couldn't hack it, you who failed, you're on my team. All you guys, all you 12 guys, you're all rejected. Each one of you has been left out of school. Each one of you has either been flunked out or thrown out. You're my team. It doesn't matter to me that society says you have absolutely nothing to contribute, because you realize their goal at this time, because the goal of Jewish culture is to be a rabbi, their goal is to work really hard, have male babies that could maybe become rabbis one day. That's what their lives had been reduced to. The Jewish people are now hoping that your children are smarter than you are so they can teach us about God. And he goes to these guys and he says, hey, I know society thinks you have nothing to offer. I know they've cast you out on the outskirts, but you are going to be my team. Follow me. And they follow him. This is the dumbest plan in the history of the world. You and I could sit here for 3 days and we would struggle to think of a dumber plan than this. This is a bad plan. But it worked. Because here we are, still talking about the message 2,000 years later. Because those guys told some other people, who told some other people, and down on the line, we got a hold of it, and now we're telling people after that, this plan worked. And he knew it would work. Jesus knew it would work. In John 17, verse 19, he prays. He says, Lord, I pray for the ones that you have given me. And then in verse 20, he prays something different. He says, I'm praying not only for these disciples, but also for all who will ever believe in me through their message. He never doubted that this plan was going to work. He always knew that you and I would hear as a result of these guys following him, because he knows what we have to learn. He knows that listening to God is always the best plan. That's what he knew it would work, because he knows this plan. I'm telling you, it's got one thing going for it. There is only one part of this plan that is an absolute trash. It's what God said to do. And listening to God is always the best plan. And this is where the Bible points us 100% of the time. Start at the beginning. God tells Adam and Eve, don't eat that fruit. That'd have been a good plan. That'd have been a good plan. We can keep going. We can keep going. Noah, build a boat. Good plan. Right? Yeah, those of you that know the story of Jericho, right? Big high walls, army goes in. What are you and I bringing to knock down those walls? I want a hammer. I want some ladders in case I can't knock them down to climb them. I want really, really strong guys at the front. God says, here's a trumpet. March around it in a circle. Bad plan. It worked. There was more to it than that. He's like, march around it for 6 days, and then on the 7th day, march around it 7 times. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Now they know we're coming. Now we're essentially target practice for 6 days. Right? This is a bad plan, God. Bad plan. Except for the fact that listening to God is always the best plan. There's a passage in the Bible that never made much sense to me until I got this in my mind. In Matthew chapter 4, the Holy Spirit asked Jesus to go off into the wilderness and prepare for temptation, right? He says, all right, I need you to go. I want you to fast for 40 days because you're about to be tempted. So it says, then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted there by the devil. For 40 days and 40 nights, he fasted and became very hungry. That tends to happen when you don't eat for 40 days. During that time, the devil came and said to him, if you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Now that has always really puzzled me. Like, hey, I'm going to tempt Jesus. Eat. Eating is not a sin. Eating is how we stay alive. right? This is not a sin. Jesus did miracles with food, like he turned bread into more bread, right? He turned fish into more fish. I never understood why this was a bad thing. It can only be a bad thing if God had said, don't eat. And the reason that I believe God had told Jesus, don't eat yet, is so he could deliver this line to us. He tells the tempter, no, the scriptures say people do not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out of the mouth of God. He says, look, the church will live by listening to God. This is all the metaphors in the Bible, right? Vine and branches. He's the vine, we're the branches. We, as the people of God, will take our nourishment from him. And how much more courageous would we be if we would get this in our minds and take strength from the one whose strength never runs out? If we would take grace from the one whose grace is endless. If we would plug into that and listen to him, and instead of being fearful, be courageous, because we know with absolute certainty that no matter what the plan is, if he says it, it's gonna work. 100% of the time, take it to the bank. How much more courage would we, the actual church, have if we could get it, that this was the plan, is the plan, and always will be the plan? It seems really simple when we're in this room, we got the Bible open, we're hearing from the Spirit. It seems really simple. Listen to God. That's a good plan. But when you walk out of here today, you're going to be hit with a virtually infinite number of other plans, competing plans that sound really good. One of my favorites is, hey, you need to get good grades in school so you can go to college. So you can get good grades in college so you can get a good job. So you can get a real good job so you can be financially secure, take some vacations every summer, so that you can grow up, have babies, and so that your babies can do all that again. Right? That's a pretty, sounds good to me, right? I like vacation. I like babies. I have 5 of them. So, right? That sounds like a good plan. It's not any plan. Listen to God. That's the plan, right? There's another plan out there that says, hey, don't take any help from anybody. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Do what you got to do. Make it happen so that you could say, hey, I'm a self-made man. I'm a self-made woman. I don't need anybody. That's another plan, right? The younger you are, too, the more plans you have coming at you. Because you and I, we're at a certain age. Some of you and I, we've got a fewer number of plans. But the young, they've got lots of plans. And my least favorite is one that I participated in till I was 26-year-old. I call it extended adolescence. It's where you and I, the older generations, have given the younger generation full permission to not take responsibility for anything. Your only job in high school is to have fun. Then your job when you're in college is to have a lot of fun. And don't worry if it takes you 8 years to get a 4-year degree, because that's what college is for. And don't worry about all that debt. I'm sure that your $35,000-a-year teacher job will take care of it after you're done, right? And don't worry about any regret that may form as a result of that. I'm sure you'll be able to manage that without therapy, right? This is the plan. We have given them permission to extend their adolescence into their mid-20s. And if you don't believe me, I dare you to watch any sporting event in the next year on television. You will hear something like this. Man, he's a good kid. I hope he matures up one day and makes better decisions. That dude is a 26-year-old millionaire with 3 children. If he's a kid, we're all kids. If you can be 26-year-old, have multiple millions of dollars in the bank, and have 3 children and still be a kid, I don't know where that line ends. I don't know where that line ends. And so on the way back, while I'm driving the bus, I said it would be kind of hypocritical for me to take this, right? Because right now I'm responsible for delivering the message, when I believe there's at least a few, maybe several 18 to 19-year-olds, members of the younger generation, could do it at least as well as I could. So I'm going to introduce to you Mr. Jonah Stroop to take this portion of the message. Please welcome to the stage.
All right, here I go again. Still don't know how I'm going to beat that introduction, Windsor. I really don't. As Jason has said, my generation has decided to take up extended adolescence in all of our actions until we're in our mid-20s, late 20s. And as much as I really hate to admit it, we do it too often, too many times to count. And at first, when Jason started talking about this message, I thought that it was going to be like every Daytona year that I've gone to, that it would be a great message, that it would be a hard-hitting message, that it would really impact many people, that we would all be cheering and screaming and being extremely happy and praising God. And I was expecting that again, but I did not know how deeply this message would impact me. For those of you that do not know me, I was raised in a 3-parent household. I was raised by my mother, my grandfather, and my grandmother. I did not know my dad. I still to this day do not know my father. I doubt I will ever know my father. And as a little kid, I did not see a problem with this. I just thought I was going to continue living all my life like nothing was ever going to change, that I was just going to live a normal life and have a normal way through life. And then as I started to get older, I started to realize that I wanted this question to be answered, that I wanted my dad to answer this question. And the question was why? Why did he leave? Why would he leave my mom as a 19-year-old woman alone to have a single child, to deal with all that responsibility and put it all on her? And at first, it led me down some dark paths. I had some horrible thinking back then. But as Jason started to speak about this message, I started to realize that this was exactly what my father had done. He had taken up extended adolescence and decided that this was not going to be his responsibility, that he did not have to take up the responsibilities of having a child, that he did not have to deal with this at all, that this wouldn't be his problem, that he would give it up to someone else. And at first, I couldn't believe that he would want to do this, and I couldn't believe that anyone would want to do this. And then that's when I started to realize that I had been doing this my entire life, that I had been doing extended adolescence more than I should have been, whether it be small things in life that I just simply forgot to do, or that I was too lazy to do, that I just didn't want to deal with that responsibility, to major life decisions that will probably impact me later on down the road. And you know what? I'm tired of giving up my responsibilities to adults. I am sick and tired of watching good adults, good people that have been working their entire lives and have been struggling their entire lives to have to deal with more than they already have. And I would especially like to thank my mother, because she has helped me push through all of this. And I thought today of all days would be a great day to express how much I love her, since it is her birthday. And she definitely deserves it. I was a handful as a child, and I'll probably be a few more handfuls later on. But I want to stop extended adolescence right now in my generation. I want to stop it now before anyone else messes up big decisions in their life as adults that they will come to regret on and on in their future life. Thank you.
Excellent. I'm going to tell you, he made that look a lot easier than it is. And he went to his mama first instead of his girlfriend, so he's getting smarter. So that said, that's one of the many plans. And our job as the church is to spot bad plans and come back to the real plan, right? And I want to put one more plan in your mind as you go today. You may be sitting in your chair and you might be thinking, you know what? That's right. I am the church. I am the church, not this. I am the church, and so I need to do more. I've got to read my Bible more. I've got to help more people. I've got all this stuff to do. I need to clean up my mouth. I need to clean up my life. I need to clean all this up. I've got to do a better job today. And you could almost do that if it wasn't for the small, inconvenient truth that that is absolutely impossible, right? You ever wonder why God's grace is infinite? You ever wonder why God's grace is immeasurable? Because our capacity for rebellion and sin is equally as infinite and immeasurable. That plan, you will fail by lunch and live in denial until dinner. It's just going to happen. And so when you fail your plan to do good and be the church, and now you're back to shame and disappointment and inadequacy, that cannot be your plan. That is a bad, bad plan, because this is what that plan sounds like. I'm going to listen to God and whatever else, get rid of the end. The end of the sentence goes right after God. That's it. Anytime you're thinking, hey, my job as the church is to listen to God, and no, get rid of the and. Our job as the redeemed people is to listen, right? He says, follow me. That's the plan. Listen. So I could boil this message down into 7 words. Wow, I just said that. I hope I've counted correctly, or else this is about to be embarrassing. We are the church. Whew, got it. Listen to God. That's it. That's the entire message. We are the church. Listen to God. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your never-ending grace, because without it, I don't even know where we'd be. We thank you for putting your faith in us as your church to carry your message, to be followers of you. We thank you that in being chosen, we get to call you Dad. We thank you for all that you give us. We thank you for the identity we have as a result of you calling us yours. I ask that we don't be sucked into bad plans, that you give us the knowledge and fortitude to identify these bad plans and stick to the only plan that has ever worked for your people, to listen to you. I ask these things in your Son's name. Amen.